So
Okay,
yay.
it's letting me record. Yep.
Awesome.
All right. So Josh, can you work out with Sylvia how to get it to her?
I'll try to get it to her.
All right, she'll edit it. So the introduction, Will Brocious, Columbia Fire in South Carolina. Billy, you want to go next? I'm trying to go around the little thing.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm Billy Bishop with Gaffney Fire, also in South Carolina.
Leah, to my
Columbia, South Carolina. I'm the staffing chief.
Scott.
Scott Breeze with Independence Fire District, fire chief there.
Nick.
Nick Wall, Roaring Fork Fire Rescue, firefighter paramedic, right next to Aspen.
All right. And Clay. Looks muted. There he goes.
Clay Kitchens with Longview Fire Department in Longview, Texas.
Sylvia.
Sylvia P. Springville Fire in Texas, up the road from Clay, CRR specialist.
Chris.
Chris O'Toole, Abington Fire, for the paramedic, and first report.
Perfect. Trent.
Trent, I'm an engineer from Spartanburg, South Carolina.
And Josh.
Josh Patterson. I'm the captain of administration for Parker District Fire in Greenville, South Carolina.
Perfect. So today we're gonna, again, we just kind of gather together to basically support each other and see what's working and what's not. Josh was one of the first to kind of help out on the inventory side. It's very impressive to see what they've built. And so today we're going to look at his inventory, and then Josh also tell us about some of the, do not do's, some things that you encountered. And then we'll look at some more reports toward the end, and we'll try to get it wrapped up in about an hour, not to keep everybody too long. I think we've gone past an hour, and we realize that it just kind of starts dragging at that point. So Josh, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Yeah, let me share my screen here. And full disclosure, guys, I'm by no means an expert. I'm learning just like everybody else is. Every day I annoy First Due with something. I'm sure everybody's in that same boat where they're sending tickets out and getting with their CSMs and stuff. I'll kind of run through some stuff like what we're doing now, and then I'll go through some things that maybe some lessons learned. And if people are doing things different, I'm always open for suggestions here. Every day I'm in here and I kind of guys get mad at me because something changes, and I'm having to blast out a whole bunch of emails. So we utilize the dashboard. It's one of the major things that has helped our department. Our last RMS didn't have a one-stop shop here, so we utilize this dashboard. And something that I learned, a new feature, I think it's maybe a month or two old, is now it's by station assignment. So if mine defaults to station 51 because in personnel I'm assigned to station 51. But because I'm not on the truck, I'm 8 to 5. I just come in here, select all, and then I can see everything. This has been
So Josh, how's that work? So defaults to the station you're assigned.
Yeah.
So walk us through. Are you guys using the scheduling module or?
Well, so yeah, we use scheduling. We have scheduling and personnel. You can set up the assigned to station in personnel. Over here in personnel list. When you're setting that up, if you give them a fire station that they're assigned to, then it'll populate on their dashboard.
How are you guys working through? So when you're showing us this, show us also how do you work through if a person's on overtime? I know everybody's got staffing issues, most of us.
So the one thing that was one of the changes that they made was to be honest with you guys, I haven't asked the question, but from what I was told from our CSM, John Skoll, he was telling me that now it goes by what truck on the scheduler. I'm not 100%. I haven't tested that out. It's probably something I need to test out, but they were telling me as long as I have the person assigned to that truck on the scheduler, then it would populate in the dashboard. If anybody has any knowledge of that, chime in.
I wasn't aware that was a change myself because we use it also, but
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
one of the things was the overtime because if you rotate stations
yeah.
before, it wouldn't assign it if you were on overtime.
So they were telling me they've been, and from what he said, I mean, that was our last meeting that we talked about this, and he said that if, as long as they're assigned to a truck here, they should populate on the assets dashboard. So if it doesn't, I'll get with him, but I think that was one of the changes that they were making there. So in the dashboard, like our guys like it because they'll hit all checks, especially, you know, officers and stuff. And we use this, like you can see here, we have a daily officers check that we created. This is kind of like that checks and balances. I'm sure at y'all's departments, like guys get busy, they forget to, and I'll just go into this, they'll forget certain things. So we kind of made it, you know, firefighter friendly for them, so to speak. You know, vehicle condition reports verified. So our condition reports are like checking oil, checking, you know, all that stuff we do every morning. They have to go in and they have to verify it. They have to go in and they have to look through all the inventory checks for their station. Normally a station officer will do this. Discrepancies documented in first due, so like any work orders, things like that, like they're talking to their crew. We encourage our guys, like, yeah, they can create a work order directly from their check in assets, but we also encourage them before they do that to kind of if it's something that can be solved right then and there, don't create a work order for it, right? Like if there's, you know, a loose screw or something, grab a screwdriver, try to tighten up the screw before you put a work order in, and then our fleet maintenance departments, you know, getting involved. And then we use we don't use the training module here. We use Fire Rescue One for our training. So they have to go in, make sure everybody's training's in, and then all their daily duties, work details and stuff. If they fail it, then they're required to put a note in, you know, why they failed it and what it is. Here. And I'll run through a couple of these checks and then I'll kind of go into the on this side as far as the equipment list and things, lessons learned and how we've imported our stuff. So our condition reports, I'll just take one of our engines here. All of our frontline trucks, we have 4 engines, a ladder, rescue, 2 battalions. All of our frontline trucks get a condition report every morning and an inventory every morning.
What's the difference, Josh, in those two things?
Condition report, so we split it up. So this is that's the compartment check. Let me go back to, so instead of doing like everything on one check, we wanted the ability to pull data on, you know, condition reports and compartment, you know, inventory. So we kind of split it up there. See, so your condition report here is, we went off NFPA compliance. We had a committee that got together, a subcommittee of our safety. We have a safety committee, a subcommittee of that got together with not only engineers, drivers in the stations, but also our fleet maintenance department guys over there. And they did a good job of kind of getting a spreadsheet together, what they were looking for. I'll tell y'all, when we first started this, like, it was the first time our department ever implemented anything like that. And we had way too much stuff on here. We were going in depth, like these guys should be mechanics and they weren't. So through that trial and error process, we've whittled things down in this and tried to make it, you know, it's still intense, but it saves us. We have a whole new fleet of Ferrara trucks. So it saved us with being able to take care of those trucks. So the condition report is, you know, broken down engine compartment here, cab, different things. And by all means, if anybody wants these, I have spreadsheets of them so y'all can I'll share anything that we have. And they just go through. And if they fail an item, then it automatically will pop up a work order. One thing I wish that you didn't have to select work order boards, the appropriate work order board. I have this to where it's assigned to certain, work order types, but for whatever reason, they've got to select that. And then it automatically defaults to the emergency lighting. We don't tell our guys to put an ETA in there. We do. One thing that we found is we have iPads on our trucks, and guys normally are doing these checks off the iPads. One thing that we did find is it was defaulting to that signed in. Let's say it was this engine 51. Well, it was defaulting to engine 51 because that was a signed in user on the iPad. Well, one of the requests from some of our battalions and fleet maintenance was they wanted the actual person that submitted it so they could call them, whatever, figure out what was going on. That's one of the requirements. We tell our guys to come in here, pick their name. And once they pick their name, they go through. We don't worry about vendors. It's defaulted to fleet maintenance. They can't change that because it is a work, on an apparatus. They put in a summary description, and then we encourage our people to upload attachments, pictures, and things of that, and they can.
I think Leah's got her hand up, and Leah, we're kind of laid back here. We just kind of jump in there.
Sorry. Are you able to change the layout of that? Or since you said you don't use ETA, are you able to take that off, or is it default?
It's defaulted to it, and that's one request that I've made is, can we clean it up with some things that we have not? They put it in as an enhancement request, I guess, and they put it in, but I told them, I was like, there's some things on here that we don't use, and it confuses our guys, but nobody's gotten back to me yet.
Are you able to add fields or no?
You can't add fields to the work order stuff, no, unfortunately not.
Do you have a problem having your people, I guess, put enough detail in on the work orders?
We did, but that was one of the things. We had a problem, and we finally got a memo sent out that told them, they needed to be descriptive, and it was one of those challenges that we faced, and through some talks with leadership and everything, we just finally sent out a memo and said, this is what you're going to do.
Right.
Unfortunately, sometimes you have to be like that. So, we tell our people, like, on this, like, if they're failing something, one of these checks here, like 9 times out of 10, it's going to be something that our fleet maintenance department needs to get involved in. So be very, conscious of that, and don't just fail something just because, and then also put a note in there, because when you fail it, your note box pops up, put a note in exactly what it was as well. One thing that we do here is we have an update field with engine hours and odometer hours. One of our biggest challenges right now is basically somebody will fat finger this on their iPad, or if they're doing it on their phone, they'll fat finger it, and then the next the guys come in the next day to do their check, and they'll put in the correct hours, and it'll tell them they can't submit the check because it's below what the guy before them put in or something like that. And so an administrator will have to go in and update it in the actual apparatus field, and then they can submit their work order, or submit their check, I'm sorry. So it's one of the challenges that it's every week we're getting 1 or 2, and that was one of those things that I've sent out a few emails just this week on that, of making sure that people are being conscious of.
Josh, is there a workflow with, are you able to like create a flag saying where it flags it, and are you sure you want to enter it, and then, but still allows them to enter that updated
Like,
information.
are you sure you want it there? I don't think there's a kind of a pop-up or anything like that that pops up for them. You know, that would probably be a good enhancement request to put in. And this ties into, I don't know if anybody has seen the preventative maintenance stuff that's came out recently, but this is directly tied into the preventative maintenance section, and they are making some updates, some requests that I made, and some updates to that, because I was like, well, that's all cool, but what if last week my engine just had preventative maintenance done, and I'm just now getting to the point of adding in preventative maintenance stuff. Like, how do I backtrack that? Because it's not going to be accurate if I say every 3,000 miles it needs preventative maintenance. Well, they're going to be able to, they said very soon we'll be able to go in and basically say, okay, last preventative maintenance was at X hours, X miles. And then as you update, once it gets to that 3,000 miles, it will it'll automatically send that preventative maintenance stuff into your fleet maintenance department.
Tell us about the process of, so you created all the checklist, you worked with your mechanics, so good teamwork, and then it was go time. What's some obstacles we can expect if we're gonna try to build this on our own?
So
live?
because this was new to us, once we got to actually putting this checklist, you know, developing this checklist, putting it into First Due, getting it set up, we had those same committee members get into First Due, and we were lucky enough to have almost one at every station. So they were able to get into First Due and do this on a trial basis with their guys, you know, for a little while, see any, you know, obstacles there. And then we had department-wide training at our training facility. We brought in every crew, every shift. We had one of our reserve apparatus down there, and our mechanics and the guys that helped develop this, they were there, and we walked everybody through the trucks.
And it just worked perfect after that?
No, not at all. So what we had to do is, it was probably about 2 months after we implemented this. I sent out a survey monkey and asked everybody, you know, pros and cons, you know, is this working? Is that working? Blah, 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 blah. And got some good feedback there. And then from the guys on that subcommittee, they were, you know, hearing things as well. And then we were able to kind of fine tune it. And it's still, you know, there's still some things that we're fine tuning, right? And I apologize. I keep looking to my right. My camera, I probably need to move my camera back over there. My camera is always to the right of me. I moved it, and everybody is on my right screen. So when you talk, I look to the right. Yeah. It's still a work in progress. I hate it, but if I can say anything about First Due, like, it's a love-hate relationship with the fact that I love their product, but I hate that there's so many updates all the time to the system, because when you're dealing with firemen, it's really hard sometimes to get them to understand that, hey, this has been changed, do it this way now, when they've been doing it a certain way for so long.
Yeah, and that's kind of the what we try to tell everybody, man, that's software, is that you know, we kind of knew that coming in because they're growing so fast. So some changes I'm like, yes, and other changes I'm like, why? But
Yeah.
it's, you know, like you said, to take the good and the bad. But the I think the most important thing you touched on there is that you got the feedback from the firefighters, the ones that are actually using it. And sometimes we forget that as admin folks, that we build it and then we hand it to them to use it, and then we get upset when they don't use it correct. But the fact that you've been able to get that feedback so you can continue to tweak it, because it's, at the end of the day, it's for them. Our job's mostly just to run the reports and make sure the work gets done. But you know, they're the end user, so to speak.
So I have
Show us. Sorry, go for it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, carry us in. So this is your checklist. Carry us into your inventory.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go into that. So I'll do it. I'll show you the inventory check, and then I'll run into the actual how we set that up, just so y'all can kind of see how it both plays real quick.
And I don't know if Josh, you were here before, but like some of the folks on this call or we kind of just like inherited some of this stuff. I know like Nick in Colorado woke up one morning and they were like, "Hey, first due is yours," and so that's why this group has been so helpful because he's able to learn something or some of us like Clay has got the fire prevention side dialed in, right? But maybe he's got to do inventory next or something like that. So it's good when people bring certain things to the table that we can all share.
And if you have the fire prevention side of things dialed in, I'll get you with our fire marshal division because they're on the struggle bus right now.
Well, the goal is when you're done in a few minutes, we're going to get Clay to go over some of these charts. And Josh, I think you're going to be really impressed. And same with I think Billy, you're the fire marshal up in Gaffney, correct? And Chief
Yeah, that's right.
Breeze, again, you'll get to see the data and how he's tracking it. It's very impressive. So, but go ahead, Josh.
No, yeah. Just real quick, I don't want take up tons of time on it. On our inventory compartment checks, we have this first thing to check started. That's like a requirement when you're building that checklist for inventory. And then we go line by line here. One of the things that we did is if I fail this, we have a missing damaged equipment thing. And this is basically, we tell our guys like, only fail it if it's broken and then, or if it's missing completely off the truck, and then they change their counts because the DCs might not necessarily get in there every day and look at the count of items, but they will see that it's set to send to them, so they will see it. Like if they have a missing item, they'll see it there. They're able to grab one off the shelf and head to them with it. So we've set this up, and then check by check. One of the things, guys, that I learned the hard way is when I was setting these checks up, like I was doing kits, and I was throwing everything into kits, right? Through that feedback from our guys, they really said, they were like, this is just time consuming. We got too many kits. Like we're having to hit the kit, start the kit, and then we're going back and loading and all this stuff. So we took a whole bunch of stuff out of kits. We have, we still have some stuff, you see here, engine toolbox, things like that. And then what we also did is if we could seal it, we sealed it, and we made it a weekly or monthly check. So if it was something, a bag, like our FDC bag, we were able to seal that bag. It's not something that necessarily gets, unless the seal was broken, the guys don't check it, but every week. And that's automatically done on the back end. You're able to schedule those kit checks and everything. So we said, if we can seal it, let's seal it. And we went that route with it.
Yeah, and I think that's where we got that concept from, Josh, when we came up there. I think you guys went live like Monday, and then we came in on Thursday. So we got to see the real good and the bad when Josh was in there sweating.
Yeah.
He helped us realize not to
dude,
put everything in kits. So we use our kits, like for the medical bags, our kits, the tool bags, and then we kind of broke it down differently. And so Josh, I was gonna, brag to you that we're almost ready to go live with our first engine, and just been getting the inventory added and going and going and going. And then I found out that they're replacing the engine with a new engine. And so the compartments are changing and stuff's moving. This is how my life is going. So it's
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I feel your pain, man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'll interject here. If we use a different vendor for the same product, and with the mileage, like we have one of their pre-built dashboards has like a mileage, and we can't void, or we can't get a voided number off of it. Someone fat fingered it, and so that like dashboard's completely useless to us right now. So I think all these issues you're having are none of them are unique to First Due, and it's just a process you have to go through.
Yeah. I mean, it's all in all, we're happy with the product. So yeah, you know, the kit stuff like medical bags, things like that, we still have a daily kit check, but mostly everything else is set up as a weekly, monthly type check.
And I know Clint's not here. I know he's got his. Anybody else on here other than Trent? Trent's is beautiful as well. But anybody else on here that has really took a deep dive into the inventory yet? I've been trying, but it's a lot.
We've got all of our stuff set up through there, so we're using everything pretty much in first due except fire investigations. We don't have, and then we don't have the EPCR. We started ours scheduling wise, I think was the first thing we did, and the end of 21, 22. Just because our other vendor was going away and we had to hurry up and get that on board. And then we started implementing things over the next 6 months or so. But we've got everything in there, and we similarly do kind of like what he was doing. When we first started, they didn't have the ability to have more than one user in there, so you couldn't join a list. So we used to do stuff on Google Forms and do them that way. And what we would find is we would get all the way through and something would freeze and they had to start all over again, and that didn't go over very well. So we separated them. So we have an inventory and a maintenance that are independent from each other, as well as our EMS check on them are independent. And then the other thing we did on ours is we have scheduled, so all of ours will do an inventory maintenance once a week on them. They'll do their normal daily fuel checks and that kind of stuff. But then we also have, so say an engine we have is on a Tuesday, whatever it is, on every like second Tuesday, third Tuesday, monthly, they'll also do rotating things where they'll do detailed checks on ladders or detailed pump testing or whatever it may be on there. But we do stuff very, very similarly to what you're talking about.
And
So I'll add you to the list of people to call when I'm almost.
we do so we have like in those condition reports I was showing you, like we have a weekly, a monthly as well. And like on our monthly is like back flushing for engines and things like that, you know, that we require the guys to do. And that's all scheduled in there as well. And then, you know, our reserve apparatus, we have 2 reserves, and I won't get into the reserve rescue that we lost. You know,
Yeah, because it's recorded.
Train sometimes, you know, fire truck doesn't stand up well to it. But yeah, so on those reserve apparatus, we do a weekly, and the where the reserve apparatus are assigned to, those guys take care of those. So it's worked out. The scheduling, I mean, the scheduling aspect of the checklist is great, I think. On the equipment side, and hopefully everybody, this was the biggest thing to get through to my guys, is the difference between inventory and equipment. I still get confused on it sometimes, you know, and so we tell our guys equipment is the big ticket items, the things that serial numbers, things that we want to track. And then inventory is those throwaway items that a battalion can go and grab off the shelf and get back to you real quick, right?
Pretty much. That's what we're learning as well. And it just kind of simplifies it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's still like I have some stuff in inventory that probably needs to be in equipment and vice versa, and we're still learning that. Right?
Click on your turnout gear, Josh, before we wrap it up with you.
Yeah.
And just want to show some folks this right here. So this is one thing I thought was really cool because they've got the gear and you can see it's assigned to certain people. And one thing we're trying to do is do that. And then we're going to create turnout gear inspections. So now we should be able to see that piece of equipment has been tested and inspected on a daily or a weekly basis based off of our schedule.
And then also in the dashboard, it will show you the equipment that is assigned to you. Probably be faster in the real site here. So if I go to scheduling dashboard, assets dashboard, if I go here, then it's got all my equipment that's assigned to me. And then if I needed to, whatever, for whatever reason, I can click structural gloves. I can go in there. I can do a work order directly off those structural gloves. If they got, damaged or whatever.
Very, very cool. Now,
This is cool. I'm sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I got a quick question for you. So
Yeah.
when I out of ignorance imported everything as equipment, and then when I believe it was Brandon Young was looking at some like the PPE checks, how to build those checklists, to conduct them in bulk checks, they looked at our inventory, they looked at our equipment list, and they said that a lot of the items that were in our equipment list should have been brought in as inventory. And one of the, I get that if you're going to bulk upload your inventory using a CSV file, but one of the things that I found cumbersome, and it's maybe ignorance on my part, is that whenever, let's say that a handle gets broken on a broom, or, well, that's probably a poor example, but you've got to receive the inventory before you can assign the inventory. And that was one of the additional steps that seemed a little cumbersome, is receiving inventory before you can assign it to an apparatus. So how are you handling that for new items that should be listed as inventory and not equipment?
So we imported all of our inventory in through the CSV. We imported, and then me and another guy went through and we assigned it in the spreadsheet they give you. We assigned it to the apparatus and everything, and then we actually went through and kind of QA'd it. And I mean, all you realistically have to do, like for a new inventory item, if you're adding something new, is just hit your new inventory, come in here, medical, put your name in. We don't, some things we do minimums on, some things we don't. We don't really ever do a maximum except for medical equipment and everything. And then we put it in there, and then we have so I'll go back to our stations real quick. The station list. So each one of our stations has a station storage. We created a station storage room on each of our stations. And we have a general storage at every station, right? So every station has a general storage, and we kind of just threw everything into general storage for each station and then pull out of it as needed. We did separate like our lawn care equipment, medical supplies, things like that, but for the most part, everything gets thrown into general storage here, and then we pull out of it. And then for like department wide, our training building has department storage. That was kind of the workaround that we used, is we used our training facility. We just created a department storage there, threw all the odds and ends things that aren't necessarily assigned to stations or, kept at stations, threw it in there, and then we pull it out of there. So that's worked out for us. You spoke about bulk checks. One thing I'll definitely want to hit on, just I know I don't want to take up too much more time, Will, but one thing, because we're right in the middle of getting done with host testing right now.
It's the season.
It is the season, right? So with the host testing, they told us, like, went through this, you can only choose 30 at a time, right, on your bulk test. But what we did not realize is if these guys go in, probably need to do, I wish this thing would go away. Probably go in here so I don't mess anybody up. What we didn't realize at the time is let's say I choose these, I hit start check, it comes into our bulk check checklist. Well, let's say for whatever reason they get up from the computer, wherever they're doing this, they run a call or they hit back for whatever reason, those then disappear. Nobody can find them. They're gone. What they have to do is they actually have to come into equipment list. And I had to walk some guys through this because they made that mistake. Come into equipment list, go to hose, find that particular piece of hose that they were testing, go into it, and it would be, I don't know why that did that. Training. It would be an incomplete checklist. there would be an incomplete checklist there for that piece of hose. So a couple of guys got really pissed off at me because there was like, I mean, they had selected 30, they caught a call, they backed out, they couldn't find it, and I was like, well, for each one of those 30 items that, you know, piece of hose that you just did, you had to go in and find it individually and complete that check. So it's definitely something that was brought up to first due, and they're aware about. But wanted to make sure that y'all were aware of that.
They were just a little mad, right?
Just a tiny bit, man.
The story I heard.
Yeah.
I think Clay switched. So real quick, Josh, I'll show the fire prevention side, and I'll give the credit to Clay because he has been the brainchild behind some of these dashboards that we've done. Did I click the right screen? I bet I did. Here we go. Wait, no. Screen 2. Can y'all see them?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. My bad. So what we were able to do, working with Clay and a few others, is try to basically get live data for fire prevention. We're like any other fire prevention bureau, you know, in a challenge to get more staffing. And, you know, anytime you're asking for additional staffing, it's kind of one of those things that I'm sure Chief knows is you got to prove it. And so here we go. We've got our data. So this is our weekly total divisions. And what we did was try to break it down based off of what they're looking for. So weekly total divisions here, annual, so how many they've done. I left it as an annual inspection. I didn't put their COs or anything like that. You can customize a lot of that. And then we put their daily, so live, the fire marshal can log in at any time and kind of see where the people are for the day. This guy's cranked out 16 inspections today so far. Okay. And then weekly, what they've done for the week, down to the month, and then to the annual. One thing I would like this to see if we could customize these colors, because then I would just assign a color to every person, as opposed to like on this one it's yellow, this one it's red for the same person. I think that would help get down to your eyes. And then this one here, Clay was actually helping me build last night. I think we were texting back and forth like 9:30 last night. And so what we were able to do is come up with this violation count by deputy. And so it's based off the annual. So right here, we've got the total violations that the Fire Prevention Bureau has written up. So we're at 1,300. And then here it breaks it down by the individual. And so one thing that, you know, we saw immediately was, you know, we got one person kind of responsible for 46% of the violations in an entire bureau. So, you know, interesting. So, so again, the data doesn't lie, right? And this is what we were able to build. Clay has taken it to another level. And so Clay, do you want to show that one? What's the one that we looked a little bit last week? And you even had it dialed down to what was that one? I'm trying to remember now.
I'm not sure. We'll look at it and see.
I have a quick question.
Go for it.
As far as customizing, you were saying the colors, but I was wondering, are you able to put like the number for each person without having to scroll over their chunk of the pie?
Yeah, so one thing we can do, Leah, like I can turn one of these pie charts into a report like this. And so visually, I chose to leave it as a pie just because the design was and the guidance was just something quick to look at. And so I can pop in and I can just see, okay, he's done more than anybody else today. Okay, he's done more than anybody else this week, as opposed to wanting to come down here and like squint their eyes and try to like, you know, find the numbers. And so I did it here, and then I did put the numbers here, just so he can kind of get a little bit more detail where folks are at.
Will, quick question, like we're in the process. I mean, we're having to retrain our fire marshal division right now because the way they were doing re-inspections apparently wasn't right. They were going in and doing it as a new inspection, just doing like you know, we have like one in there for like just a general update or something, and they weren't actually going back in and doing a you know, the inspection they did and then putting it as corrected. Do you have anything and from that, do you have anything that shows like corrected violations? Because that's the, we wanted something that showed total violations and then corrected violations. But what we were running into is every time we would move one over to corrected, it would then take it away from the actual violations.
Yeah, I think we're going to work on that. Clay and I, we chatted last night about some ideas because it may be something we have to kick the first due. Because one thing we were going to try to do, our fire marshal wants to see a correction rate. And so if I'm writing up this amount, what am I getting corrected? Because it's great to go out and write a bunch of stuff up, but are you actually going out and getting it corrected? And then at what rate? So I think Clay and I are going to try to look at that a little bit, but I haven't been able to figure it out yet. That was just some kind of ideas last night.
Hey, Will,
Yes, sir.
if I could, when we first started doing first due, I actually had one of the first due reps help me because for those of you in South Carolina, the ISO, I mean, not ISO, for 1% stuff, you have to do the quarterly inspections. And you needed to know how many violations you had and how many got fixed. And they helped me build a report that shows, how many violations we had and then how many were corrected. And
You want to share the screen, Billy, and
Yeah.
let's look at that. I mean, that's what we're here for, Let's see. And then we'll get Clay's super dashboard. I believe, yes. I see it. Yep.
Okay. So they helped me. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So they helped me build some that had number of violation, and here's the one for corrected violations. We're fixing to roll back out with company inspections. We're doing training on it next week, so there's not a lot in here. But they do have it set up to where I can choose the dates and it'll show me the ones that were corrected. I mean, I can come in here
All right, hold on. And this is, I think, Billy, you missed it last week. So this is what we're trying to do. So we'll show the basic information. And so that way, when people come back to watch it, they can see exactly how you built it. So we see right here, this is his basic information, and then we'll go data source configuration. And so you got inspections down to inspection item result. Clay, I didn't see that one last night when we were messing with it, the result.
Yeah.
And of course, you did a summary report type, or
they actually listed it as a tabular. I mean, like I said, they built this one for me. So, and it seems to work. I was going to try to play around with the difference in summary and tabular, but they left this one as tabular. And then when we came to columns, this is the stuff that they included in there.
All right.
Just let me know when you're ready to move on.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay. There was nothing really in the sort thing, and then in the criteria, like I said, for the 1% here in South Carolina, is quarterly, so I can go in here and choose the dates that I'm trying to look for. But like I said, I can go here and choose whether it's their corrected violations or failed. And I really think that was the gist of it, because we didn't really mess with the grouping and stuff. It just happened. But like I said, it does let you run that one to see how many were corrected, because that's one question we had to know, or one answer we had to know. So.
No, I like it. And so we're keeping that like on a separate spreadsheet until we figure it out. So that's very helpful.
And I don't know if y'all saw the other one, but and I think you've already got that one down because I saw it in yours a while ago. But here's the one for just the number of violations. Like I said, right now we don't have a lot in there, but
So you're getting ready to, Billy, you're getting ready to start back with the company level inspections?
yeah, like I said, we kind of trained them on pre-fire plans and stuff, and it's just I've been trying to get our inspection things set up. So matter of fact, next week we're going to start with showing them how to input inspections and things like that.
Did you watch the video from last week?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so I was gonna say, you saw how Clay was doing it with, he's able to split tracking the violations for the company level inspections versus the fire marshal's office.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm gonna try to implement some of that. That's what I mean. I'm interested in all the fire protection or fire prevention stuff, but I mean, really, I'm doing all of it in first due. So I'm kind of like, I think you said it was Nick, first due's mine.
Yeah, that's and I'll be completely honest. Like I'm really glad that to be blessed with a good team. There's some departments that they're just like, hey, you're it, and that person's trying to figure it out. But I've got a great guy over in fire prevention with Damian Dawson. I've got Leah, who also likes data, and a handful of others. And that's what it really takes. And then you guys is the network. Like I've said, I've traveled to your departments either virtually or in person. Chris looks like he's changed. This guy just sat down as Chris, so his mustache is gone. But but some have been super helpful. So Billy, I want you to see Clay's, and I think he's kind of like leading the way when it comes to these fire prevention dashboards right now, man. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I'd love to see anything he's got.
All right, Clay, it's yours. Hey, Chris, can you hear me? Or the guy who's sitting in Chris's chair from Massachusetts. He has no idea. This is great. All right, Clay. Let's see what we
Hopefully he
got.
doesn't pick his nose.
That would be great. And it's all recorded. So,
Can you see my screen?
yep.
All right. So this is the dashboard that I showed last week. I'm new to reports. I've not had any formal training. It's just picking up on the very first users group meeting that we had, and then the one that First Due hosted that following Friday. I just tried to soak in as much as I could. So I'm really new to this. My only experience with building dashboards and charts and reports is with Tableau and Firehouse software. So this is a welcome change for sure. So what I've done here is I've built out 3 reports and put them all on a dashboard. The first one is called the inspections by inspector, which is just utilizing that chart. And I'll go through and I'll show you the back end of these reports individually. But this really came from the request, and I sent this to our CSM, that in Firehouse software, we had a report that was the top 10 violations, and you just insert your date range, and it would spit out the top 10 violations sorted by the number of violations. And I really wanted to build something like that in First Due, because we use that to drive our inspector training as our inspectors need that 2 hours of CE for the commission. We go over the top 10 violations, any fire code changes, answer any questions related to First Due updates, that kind of thing. So we really drive these violations and the associated fire code in that inspector training, so that they can in turn educate the business owners with company inspections, how to reduce their risk. So I've got this for the fire marshal's office, and we only have we have 3 fire investigators that work 24 on, 48 off, and then these 2 guys work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. So that's the reason why they have quite a few more inspections, because that's pretty much their sole responsibility. So I copied this dashboard, changed the parameters to just be equal to company inspections. So one thing I was talking to Brody about last night is that our fire marshal's office does all assembly occupancies, churches, hospitals, group homes, foster inspections, apartment complexes, restaurants. I mean, you name it, they do it, with the exception of just your run-of-the-mill businesses like a convenience store or so AT&T, wireless, Verizon, that kind of normal business occupancy. Those are conducted by company inspections. And so what I did was they're assigned 60 inspections per apparatus per shift. Oof. And so this is a quick way for the battalion chiefs to see who is close to meeting their goal for the year, and then how many inspections they've conducted as a company. And this is just tallying the number of company inspections conducted this year, year to date. And then this shows the number of inspections that are hanging out there that were assigned to a user, but they're still showing to be in progress. They've not been completed yet. And this is also set to year to date. And then down here, I just copied that same report that I'd set for the fire marshal's office inspection types and just made it equal to company inspection. And then you can sort this for the count of violations for all company related inspections.
Clay,
and then inspection checklist is a little different. Oh, go ahead.
Question for you. So we're actually in the process like building this out for our company inspections that start next month. And one of the things that we've been going around and staffing about is, my idea was to just, because we have iPads on the trucks that are signed in as each individual, truck, my idea was just to say, okay, this truck gets 100 inspections, and then, we tell each shift they've got to do X amount. Well, they didn't like that, because they felt like, okay, A shift's going to take all the vacancies, and B shift's going to take this, so it's not going to be that equal. So they kind of wanted it to be shift specific, have you been able to do that within first due in as far as assigning out per shift, and how do you do that on, as far as trucks go?
So they recently, this year is the first year that they tried this. We also have that same issue where you get some guys that jump out, and we used to place the responsibility on the inspector is 10 inspections per inspector per month. And so then what we found is that some districts have 1,200 occupancies and 2 inspectors for the whole station across all 3 shifts. And then some districts have 8 inspectors for 400 occupancies. So it was difficult. There's no good way to solve the problem. So what they did was they put the requirement back on the apparatus. So it didn't matter whether you had 8 inspectors at your station on a dual company station, or whether you had 1 inspector at a smaller station with just 1 engine for all 3 shifts. And then they split it up to say that on an even year, you're going to do even addresses. On an odd year, you're going to do odd addresses. And so it hasn't completely solved the issue with guys going out and trying to find 60 vacant buildings. They'll do, if they only have, we have one company that has, I believe it's 8 addresses in their district that are even addresses. So they're going to go do those 8, and then they have to make up the difference and get 52 somewhere else. Well, they may go try to find 52 vacant addresses, but what we've asked them to do, or the battalion chief that's over inspections has asked them to do, is to coordinate with the station captain on their shift in that other district, and then let that captain tell them where they need them to go, because that captain in that district knows what inspections they're going to do. And so there's got to be some collaboration there and some cooperation between the 2 stations. And so they've tried to push that back at a company level to make that decision, so that you don't have truck 8 coming into station 6's district trying to knock out all the vacant inspections.
Bill, does that help you
And
too?
so
'Cause I
then
feel like you were doing the same thing. Is that kind of the same way you're headed?
Yeah, kind of.
Are any of you all using the inspection zones and assigning things to those?
Yeah, so that's what we do here is we have everything broken out into inspection zones. And I guess after 2 staff meetings of going around and around, my solution is I'm going to go in there and I'm going to I'm going to make our inspection zones are very generic just per station right now, but I'm actually going to do inspection zones of basically 51A, B, C, then 52A, B, C, and break it out like that, and then plug in buildings into them, so I can tell the guys on the truck, go to my inspection organizer, like your inspection zone of, if you're at station 51 on A shift, 51A, click that, and there's going to be all your buildings you need to do. So that's kind of my solution.
So when we signed up for ours, we had them where they imported everything from our property value assessment office, and they brought all of our occupancies in. And we had our county GIS actually create a shape file. And so we had a map and showed them kind of where we wanted the splits to be done to try to even things out. And they created a shape file, uploaded it in. And so we have basically 4 zones per station area that we have. One of them, the zone we don't really use, we still had to have them in there, but it was all the residences just because they came over. So we put them in their own zone and kind of cut out around them in shape files where all of our businesses were. And we're able to rotate them off that, and they stay relatively even numbered. And then they just know if you have zone 1 this year in that area, you go to zone 2 the next year and work our way through it. That seems to have worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Wait, show them what you're going to show them, and I'm going to show them since the chief touched on shape files. Like with us, we are city and county department, so we cover both. And so one way we found a way to kind of split that. So show us what you're going to show us, and then I'll show them the shape file we got.
Okay. One quick thing I was going to mention is that we don't use inspection zones. We use the districts for the fire districts. We were going to use inspection zones. We didn't realize this, but there is an inspection schedule field within the occupancy that allows you to say annual, biennial, even, biennial, odd. And so I filled out an enhancement request to include the inspection schedule in this filtering criteria so that our guys can go in and say, I want to see all inspections in District 1, and then with an inspection schedule of biennial odd, and that would be those would be the inspections for that district in 2025. And so we opted not to use the inspection zones once we found out that they had the inspection schedule field. And so what I did was I just used ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro to go in and put all of our occupancies in the inspection district, but then I turned around and pulled them into Excel, copied the attribute table, put them into Excel, and then ran a formula that said, if the address is even, then put even in this field. If the address is odd, then put odd in this field. And then I sent it to First Due, and they appended all of our occupancy records with that information.
Very similar. Let me show you. I'm trying to get mine going here. And so if you are,
While you're doing,
Hmm?
I was just gonna say, while you're doing that, I don't know if you've seen the screenshot that I sent you this morning. This is the report that we were talking about last night. I
Ooh.
reversed the columns and the rows, because remember I told you had to enter the question exactly. It makes it easier if you go back and adjust the criteria and group off of the checklist item and then filter off of the inspector name at the top. Now, if you've got a bunch of company inspectors like what we have, we build it into our promotional process that in order to test for driver, you have to be a TCFP or Texas Commission on Fire Protection inspector. But so it wouldn't work for company inspections. So I built this out for our fire marshal's office because we only have 5 inspectors in the fire marshal's office. So there are your questions. And then here are the number of violations year to date in 2024 that have been marked by each inspector. And so instead of having to type that question in exactly, you're only typing their name in exactly from the personnel module.
That's
So you can see that out of all these inspectors, Jason seems to be the one that marks the suppression system as a violation more often than the other 4 inspectors.
and all you did was just flip it.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll have to get
If
more
you all want,
information on that.
if y'all want this report, I was going to say, if you all want this report, I've got it in draft status right now, but this is the name of the report. If you want to have your CSM reach out and grab it, you're more than welcome to have it. But again, if they grab this report, just understand that it's going to be filtered by our inspectors' names. You'll have to put your own inspectors' names in there.
So
And what I mean by that is right here under grouping. Yeah, I've got completed by name. That's our inspector's name. You're going to have to change that with your inspector that you're wanting to track on violations.
does that make sense? And I think it like I track it a little bit just because this is literally what we were working on last night, and
Sure.
it was like insanity. And so yeah, we got it. You got it done. From based on some of the conversation we were having yesterday. So very good.
Yeah, I tweaked a little this morning when I woke up, and I sent you a couple of screenshots just to show the criteria and the end result. This works out much better. The way we had it before was this was grouped by inspector name, and then this was going to have to be each individual checklist question. Well, depending on the inspection checklist that you have for the inspection type, your filtering could be forever, basically. So for us, just putting 5 filters in here and then letting that long list of the checklist item questions works out better.
Hey, Clay, will you click through each one of those settings real quick, or not real quick?
Sure.
Just enough so we can see, and anybody else that sees this.
So your data source configuration, I've got just the inspection violations, then the inspection table below that, and then the personnel. This is where you're going to grab your inspector's name.
Was there anything under, I'm sorry, was there anything under basic?
Just inspections module.
Okay. For the people who are really
And
like me.
It's a summary report. And of course, with the summary report, you can't set your columns or your sort. So the criteria, and I know Brody's been having some issues, and I had some issues with this with previous reports. The violation create at seems to work better than the inspection completed date here. It seems to break the report if you use the completed date for the inspection. So the date that the violation was created seems to work well with this report. And then I've got this one just not equal to company inspection, because everything that you see in this list here is a fire marshal's inspection except for the company inspection. And we have inspection checklists built out that are different for each inspection. And then you can see the grouping here. I've got some summary column filters applied here to filter out for, these filters are what generate the additional columns for those checklist items. And so I built out all 5 inspectors with a filter. And then I did not include a chart. And then I don't have it on the schedule. I don't have any additional filters because it's not available for the summary. And then I've got, this is a new feature here that they just rolled out, but this report is only shared with me until I get it with the way that I would like it, and then I'll roll it out. So
When did they do that?
I don't know. It's in the release notes for
Oh.
March. So it's been out a couple of weeks.
How about that? Literally, we were complaining about the other day.
Yeah. Yep. So that's all I've got.
Man, you're the, like I said, you're the man when it comes to these fire prevention reports, man. The detail you've spent, I almost like don't even want to show mine now, but this is what I was talking about. If you're and maybe Billy, Josh, South Carolina has really weird annexation laws, and we end up with these like donut holes all over the place.
Come on, man.
And so what we were able to do was take the city limits, upload an ArcGIS layer, and then drop it on our map so our guys can know if they're in the city or out of the city. But we broke ours down even weirder. And so we didn't go with like an inspection zone or based off a station. We went with voting districts. We're the state capital, so things get political really fast. So at any given time, we know what city council member that area belongs to. And so that's how our deputy fire marshals are assigned. So this is one voting area, this is one voting district, this is another one, and this is, Fort Jackson, the military base. And like I said, you can see how cut up our city is. And that's just the nature of South Carolina. I don't know how that goes in other states, but here you could be in the city and then across the street out of the city. And we just have to make it work. So that's kind of one way we were able to get around some of that stuff with laying out our districts and whatnot. We just went with voting districts. So any other comments, questions? If not, we'll end the recording, and of course we'll stay on, but we'll end the recording for everybody.
Just a quick for people. Crystal Tolia, sorry, had to run out for a short time.
Yeah, we noticed there's some guy sat in your chair. It was like, that's not Chris. He changed, his mustache went away. What happened?
Oh, that's funny. I heard. So the anyone that has inspections or built or also has a checklist for trucks and all that, there is a section on the first 2 users group, the file section. There's been a couple posted there. So if you want to share them, feel free. Just put in the file name, like where it's from and what it's for. And anyone can upload any files to there that are that can be imported for someone else's use. So there's a couple in there, but definitely worth mentioning for anyone that has great reports. Clay, people like that. If you have a great ones you want to share, pop them up there, and people can pull them down and use them.
Not
I
great.
think I actually shared our inspection CSV file for our different inspection types. Back when we finished that up, I think I shared that in the users group.
Great, yeah, and it may be some of yours may be up there. So yeah, just heads up, people. If you have any, it's definitely worth posting up there because guys can pull them down or use them as examples.
Will, I just told John just to take everything you've done and just put it on mine.
Oh, good, because I've just told John to take everything that Clint's done and Clay's done and put it on ours. It's a good thing this thing doesn't share viruses, bro. Like passing it around. But that's good. So we can end the recording here soon. So thanks to Josh and Clay for